Your worth does not disappear just because your capacity does. Hey, it's Jael from Cell Based Nutrition, and today we are talking about how your worth is not measured by your productivity or consistency. Often, when I make these videos, I wish to talk about subjects that I think are important when it comes to living with chronic pain, chronic fatigue, chronic illnesses, complex medical needs, disabilities. But today, not that I'm saying that this topic isn't absolutely relevant to what I usually speak about, but today's message definitely hits very close to home for myself. It is something that I think I also need to hear. Low capacity days often trigger shame. And that's not because we're failing, but it's because we have been taught that consistency equals value. So the more we show up, the more we are present, the more output we give or do, the more important, valuable we are as people. And then we wonder, if we cannot show up consistently, what's our value? Can I be trusted? Can I be respected? Do I still matter? And that's the point where we begin to internalize a very ableist, a very capitalistic view of individuals and productivity. And many of us say that we believe that our worth is not tied to productivity. I say that. And I know that, but I panic when my capacity becomes unpredictable. And I wonder how many of us feel the same. It's not just about doing less, it's about being seen as being unreliable, forgetful, weak, difficult, a burden, or even, as I was called once upon a time, flaky. Chronic pain and fluctuating capacity can trigger real identity instability. It is not always possible when you are living with complex medical needs to show up in the same way and to show up at the same level and show up as consistently as people would like or people would expect. Some days you need to cancel. Some days you need to reschedule. Some days you need to change plans. Some days you need to do less than you hoped. Some days you crash and you wake up hours later than you had intended, and you've missed things. You've missed messages, phone calls, meetings, appointments. And that unpredictability can feel like a moral failure. Consistency is often treated as some sort of virtue, but human biology isn't linear. We're not robots. Energy shifts, hormones shift, pain shifts, stress levels shift, and fluctuation is not a character flaw. It's physiology. And I think it's about time that I at least admit that I have internalized capitalism, where reward is attached to stability. So when output changes, the assumption is that worth has also changed. But worth is not a performance review. Reliability isn't always about producing. It's about how honest we are with our capacity. It's about communicating our limits, and it's about not abandoning ourselves, especially not losing yourself under the demands of other people who are not living in your body. Self-trust grows when you respect your natural fluctuation rather than fighting against it. And I also think it's important for us to address the grief. Letting go of the fantasy of being endlessly consistent. That can feel like a loss. It can feel like a loss of self. You're grieving for the loss of capacity. But in letting go of that fantasy, there can be relief. Your worth survives bad days. Your worth survives cancellations. Your worth survives unpredictability. Capacity fluctuates, but your value does not. And I need to hear this message as much as the next person. I have been struggling with my capacity the last few days, and the self-critic voice came out, and I had to remind myself that my output isn't my value. You know, sometimes when we are told or we hear things, even if it's just once, even if it's a long time ago, it can burn, and it can create an echo that becomes part of the self-critic chorus. I remember once upon a time I was supposed to host a Zoom meeting, an informal meeting once a week with a small group of people. And one day, admittedly, there was another person who had the Zoom login and was equally as capable of not even chairing the group, but just being a presence. And I had had some sickle pain, and I had taken some painkillers the night before, and of course slept so deeply and heavily through my alarm, through any messages that I received. And I sort of woke up maybe an hour and a half after the meeting was supposed to start. And that lack of capacity, that flare of pain, those fairly reasonable circumstances, and again, this wasn't business, this wasn't work, this was just an informal group, that lost me a friendship. Now, looking back, any friendships that can't withstand chronic illness are not friendships worth having. But I remember being called flaky in the final conversation that was had before the friendship ended. And that was something that haunted me for a long time, because as I've discussed in previous videos, I have burnt myself out. I have physically hurt myself by pushing through my pain, pushing through my fatigue to ensure that things are done. It's absolutely not an accurate representation of who I am. And it was a very ableist statement from somebody who knew that I had sickle cell and I was dealing with chronic pain. And what I would like those of you who are listening to understand is sometimes people don't have or refuse to have the capacity to be able to see beyond their own needs. And when you are not able to perform in a way that they would like you to, because it benefits them, then they would weaponize your fluctuations in energy, in pain, in ability to show up against you, rather than creating the space necessary to give you the grace needed for that particular episode. If low capacity days have ever made you question your worth, you are not alone. I know what that feels like. I would like you to continue to check in and watch these videos for more grounded conversations like this. You know, we don't fake around here. I think it's really important to shine a light on all of the different nuances and all of the different elements of living life with chronic pain. It's important that we show up for each other in this community that we're building, and let each other know that these fluctuations absolutely do not reflect on who you are as a person. So I'm Jael from Cell-Based Nutrition. It has been lovely talking to you. I would love if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, share to anybody who you feel needs to hear these messages. And I am looking forward to reading your comments. The comments have been great this week. I have been really touched by how insightful you all are, how much grace you are giving yourselves, how much these videos are resonating with you. That means a lot to me. So if this landed, let me know in the comments, because you absolutely matter here. As usual, I would like to remind you that your body is not broken. Your cells are just undernourished, and I will see you in the next video.